In this session, we'll take a look at the graph of y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 1 minus 2. But before we take a look at graphing this particular function, we'll take a look at the absolute value graph, and we'll also take a look at the transformations of graphs. So first we'll take a look at the absolute value function, which is y is equal to the absolute value of x. And if we were to graph the absolute value function, the basic function is a V-shaped graph centered at the origin. However, we can place transformations on this particular graph. Let's say, for example, we wanted to shift this graph up 2 units. Well, in order to shift the graph up 2 units, I'll simply take my function y is equal to the absolute value of x, and I'll simply add 2. Right? This would shift our graph up 2 units. Let's say conversely that we wanted to shift the graph down 2 units. So shifting the graph down 2 units, we would write out our function as y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 2. Let's just say we wanted to take this basic absolute graph and we wanted to shift it to the left 2 units. So here I would write out my function as y is equal to the absolute value of x plus 2. So notice that the positive 2 in this instance is within my absolute value function. So notice that this positive 2 and this positive 2 serve two completely different purposes. Lastly, we're going to take the basic absolute graph and we're going to shift it to the right 2 units. So we will write out this equation as y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 2. Right, so notice that this minus 2 is a shift to the right 2 units, and this minus 2 added to the end of our function is a shift down 2 units. So in our problem, we're asked to graph y is equal to the absolute value of x minus 1 minus 2. So the first thing we'll do in order to graph is we'll look at where this graph bends. So notice that we have a couple of transformations on this particular graph. We actually have a negative 2 attached to the end of our function, which is a shift down 2 units. We also have a minus 1 within our function, which is actually a shift over 1 unit. So to make a basic sketch of this graph, I'm going to simply go over 1 place to the right, and I'm going to go down 2, and this will serve as my pivot point. In order to graph, I need 1 more point on the line. So in order to calculate the second point on the line, I'm simply going to use an X and a Y chart. I can substitute in any value for X. So in this case, I'm going to substitute in 0. And if we were to substitute 0 within our function, we see that X would equal to negative 1. So now I can plot the point 0, negative 1, which is here. Right? And this would give us our graph. So now if I go back to our problem that's within X, Y, Z, I'm going to choose the V-shaped graph. I'm going to plot where the graph bends, which is at 1, negative 2. I'm also going to plot the point 0, negative 1. And thus we have our graph. Thanks for watching.